My name is Newell Thompson. I am the Executive Director of the New Jersey Agricultural Society. As it relates to this summit, what the New Jersey Agricultural Society does specifically to this conversation is we have a program called Farmers Against Hunger. We basically are a volunteer gleaning organization that pulls fresh foods off of farms and delivers them to places who are underserved. So we deliver about 1.5 million pounds of fresh, nutritious, healthy food each year. And my role is to kind of elevate that and bring that conversation to a broader audience. So I'm really pleased to be moderating this panel today, and thank you all for coming.
And I'm Sara, Elnakib. I'm the chair of the Family and Community Health Sciences Department at Rutgers Cooperative Extension. I'm really excited to be on the moderator today. I was on the facilitation team and helped support the State of the Food System Summit last year. And I think I want to shout out Janine and Kara, but specifically Janine, because this was her baby. She's been doing this for 3 years, and so we're very, very excited to see how far it's come. And so we'll start with introductions for the folks here, and then we'll kind of bounce off questions if that's all right. Yeah.
You want to start with Brian?
Sure. So I'll start with my boss, Brian Schilling, who is the director of Cooperative Extension, and he's the senior associate director of the New Jersey Agricultural Experiment Station. He provides executive leadership in the advancement of Rutgers University's Cooperative Extension mission to improve the lives of New Jersey residents and their communities through delivering science-based programming and outreach across all 21 counties in the state. Dr. Schilling also holds an academic appointment with Cooperative Extension Specialist of the Agricultural Policy in the Department of Agriculture, Food, Resources, and Economics at the School of Environmental and Biological Sciences at Rutgers University. During his 28 years at the school, much of Dr. Schilling's research has been focused on New Jersey's farm viability, farmland preservation, and agricultural economic development in the urban-rural fringe. And his bio goes on, but I will close out with that he holds a BS in resource management and an MS in agricultural economics and a PhD in planning and public policy, all from Rutgers University. That's Dr. Schilling.
Great. I have the good pleasure of introducing Joe Atchison. Joe is the acting secretary and director of marketing and development for the New Jersey Department of Agriculture. Joe joined the department in July 2005 as a marketing specialist. Through the years, Atchison advanced to coordinator of agricultural marketing and then to division director of marketing and development before being named assistant secretary in January of 2022. In his role as division director, Atchison oversees all of the department's agricultural marketing efforts, primarily under the banner of the Jersey Fresh branding program. During his tenure, the division has begun a transition from an organic certification program to a program that offers technical, educational, and marketing support for organic and regenerative farming operations. Joe initiated the Underserved Farmers Network within the department and currently oversees outreach via the network. He also continues to work with the Department of Health to lift 5-acre rule of growers to be eligible to accept WIC and FMNP credits. The Division of Marketing and Development also administers a suite of regulatory services, including food safety inspection, enforcement, regulation of the state's commercial dairy, feed, and fertilizer industries, commodity import inspections, and other programs. The division administers more than $5 million in annual grant-funded programs. Atchison holds a Bachelor of Science degree from Rutgers University School of Business and Management and Marketing. He and his family live in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Thanks for coming, Joe.
Thank you. And I have the distinct pleasure of introducing Natasha Johnson, who is the Assistant Commissioner for the New Jersey Division of Family Development, and she oversees the Child Nutrition, Child Support, and Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which is SNAP, which is a food assistance program, Work First New Jersey, the New Jersey's cash assistance program, and the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, TANF, and General Assistance Program. Natasha also oversees the state's child care quality ratings and improvement system, Grow New Jersey Kids, which is an emergency housing and nutrition and activities program for low-income New Jersey residents, and the Fatherhood Initiative, among others. And this $5 billion state agency serves more than 1 million New Jersey residents. Natasha has had 25 years of experience working with children and families as a social services clinician, as well as a manager who develops, launches, and supervises social services programs. Prior to joining DFD, Natasha was the Senior Vice President at the Prevent Child Abuse New Jersey. During that 8 years there, she developed and improved statewide policies for 2 national recognized home visitation programs and teenage pregnancy prevention programs designed to support patients and reduce incidences of child abuse and neglect. Her career of serving began in the juvenile justice system and delinquency and substance abuse teens in the state of Florida. Natasha has a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in social work from Florida State University. So welcome, Natasha.
And now Bob Andrzejczak. Bob was appointed by the Biden administration to serve as the state executive director of the USDA Farm Service Agency in New Jersey in February of 2022. Bob was born and raised in Cape May, New Jersey. He joined the U.S. Army as an infantryman in 2005. On his second deployment to Iraq, he was severely wounded when his convoy was attacked, for which he was awarded a Purple Heart. Bob also received Bronze Star with Valor for trying to aid his fellow wounded soldiers, as well as the Combat Infantryman Badge. After 2 years of recovering from his injuries at Walter Reed Army Medical Center in D.C., Bob returned home to New Jersey. Andrzejczak was active in multiple community-based service organizations before being appointed to serve in the New Jersey General Assembly in 2012. While in the Assembly, he served as chairman of the Agricultural and Natural Resources Committee, as well as the New Jersey representative on the Agricultural and Rural Affairs Committee of the Council of State Governments. He was appointed to the New Jersey State Senate in 2018 and served until 2019. Bob worked on a diversified produce operation throughout middle and high school. His community involvement includes serving as a leader for the Cub Scouts and 4-H Shooting Sports Club. He has also been involved in the Veterans of Foreign Wars since 2010. Bob and his wife, Tricia, live in Cape May, New Jersey, with their 2 children and enjoy camping and outdoor activities. Next is James Strehse. James is a natural resource specialist with the Natural Resources Conservation Service. After graduating from Kutztown University in 2014, James started his career working on and managing various organic vegetable farms from Vermont to Washington State. He spent 6 years as a farm manager in Mercer County before joining NRCS last winter. Since joining the agency, James has placed special focus on outreach and civil rights. In addition to his role as a conservation planner, he is a member of the Civil Rights Advisory Committee, as well as the point of contact for outreach in the Frenchtown field office. And we have one more new arrival. Lindsay, do you want to self-introduce yourself?
Good morning. My name is Lindsay Carragher. I work for Bob Andrzejczak and the United States Department of Agricultural Farm Service Agency. I am the district director, so my responsibility is to oversee the delivery of farm programs and farm loan programs in our 6 county offices. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's dive right into the questions. And thank you again all for coming. Greatly appreciated. Question number 1, and this is for food production and agriculture programs. So for Bob, James, and Joe, tell us about the New Jersey communities, farm businesses, or individuals that are the focus of the programs your agency organization manages. Although there isn't adequate time here to discuss all of the programs and services you offer for each group or sector, please give an idea of the overall goals of the programs and services your organization offers. And I'd like to start with Bob.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. So a little bit about the Farm Service Agency. We directly support our food systems by directly supporting our farmers, the people that grow our food. You can really break our agency down into 3 sections. The first section would be our disaster assistance programs or risk management. This area, we have our NAP program, which is our non-insured crop disaster assistance program. So NAP is one of our most popular programs. Is essentially insurance for uninsured or traditionally uninsured crops. Moving on, we also have our loan programs as well. We have loans for literally everybody, the new and beginning farmers to our veteran farmers and everybody in between. And then our last area that we cover is conservation. We team up with NRCS for our conservation programs, and when we are doing conservation, is essentially we take land that is no longer in production, and we put that into conservation, and that provides additional assistance to our producers, but at the same time, we're also creating a healthy habitat and environment for our pollinators to directly assist our producers as well. We do occasionally have ad hoc programs that National comes out with, and these are situational. So we saw wildfires out west the past couple of years, and there were programs directly created for those disasters. And for New Jersey specific, whenever we have any sort of flooding or damages along those lines, we are able to put in for flood declarations, and we're able to receive additional assistance within New Jersey.
Thanks. James, do you want to provide some thoughts as well? And just if anybody wants me to repeat the question, I can do that as well.
Yeah, so we're, NRCS, or the Natural Resource Conservation Service, is a branch of USDA whose intention is to assist farmers and private landowners and operators with putting regenerative practices, conservation practices on their farm. But we are a public agency, so we are here for everybody. We work with individuals, tribes, nonprofits, even like schools and municipalities. We can work on private and public land. But the main goal of the agency is kind of in the name. It's natural resource conservation. So the intention is to help kind of put some practices onto farms or land that are addressing resource concerns on that land. So anybody who has land with resource concerns can work within our programs. We provide technical and financial assistance with the goal to help these landowners to implement those practices using a conservation plan. So if an individual is going to work with our agency, then they would talk to one of our field offices, get a plan developed that really meets the intentions of their objectives and kind of pairing that with the needs of the land that they're working on. So really our main goals are to improve farm viability by putting these conservation practices on and providing that cost share assistance where we can to do that. We also, last year, through the Inflation Reduction Act, got a boon in funding that really hones in that goal of our organization to address the climate crisis. So we have a kind of specialized group of practices that we implement that the goal is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and improve carbon sequestration on the land that we're working with.
Thank you. Brian, if you care to remark.
Good morning, everyone. So cooperative extension goes back to 1914. So historically, our roots lie in supporting the agricultural industry in this country. Today, we look a lot different, but a lot of that mission still remains the same. In terms of direct agricultural support, we have faculty and staff in all 21 counties that support agriculture, and I like to actually usually present that as food systems more broadly. Agriculture is actually about a $1 billion industry in the state in the face of a $136 billion food system. So we can't really support agriculture without being involved in other aspects of that food supply chain. We also have to acknowledge that, academia often operates in silos based on disciplines. That does not work in the real world. So in cooperative extension, while we have people that carry the title of a county agent in agricultural and natural resources, in the name you would think that they devote most of their time to agriculture, and they do. But we also have people, and since Sara gave such a nice introduction, I'll reciprocate. Sara's leadership in family and community health sciences is so critical right now because it's a department that's evolving. This department, compared to the others in Extension, has probably had the most dramatic transformations over time, and it continues to do so. Coming out of, the old home economics to today, a focus on local food systems, health and wellness, food security, nutritional education. So it's a vital part of how we can integrate in service of the state and the country, services of the university. And then we have 4-H, where we have historically roots in agriculture. Today in New Jersey, a lot of our 4-H youth participants are in STEM. Agriculture, folks, is STEM. So we haven't really lost sight of that mission, but it's evolving as our food system and its needs change. We also provide a lot of ancillary services or related services from testing and soil testing and pathology and so forth. We do extensive numbers of training programs across the state to support all farmers. What I often say is I'm agnostic when it comes to farming, because if you're working the land, or heck, today you don't even need to work the land. If you're raising food and fiber or other crops or livestock in new systems that are less traditional, hydroponics or aeroponics, it's really our mission to serve you. So the thing that I always urge is we need to look at the motivation of the person that's working, standing in front of us. If they're looking to be involved in agriculture, we try to really adapt our own expertise or draw expertise from the university to bring to bear to that person. When I say I'm agnostic, agriculture to me is agriculture. The type of production system, the scale of production, what you're producing, shouldn't be a distraction. We should focus on supporting the people in the state and the country that have the aspiration to farm. I'll probably say more later.
Great. And last but not least, on the production side, Joe?
All right, thanks. Brian and I have been at many events together, and normally I fly by the seat of my pants, but because I want to stay on target, I have some notes here. So, because I tend to ramble sometimes, but Brian's always on point. So, the New Jersey Department of Agriculture enjoys the distinction of being an agency that touches nearly every resident of New Jersey every day. As we answer both parts of this two-part question, you'll see how that's true. However, our core constituency, if you want to phrase it that way, is our state's hardworking farmer organization. Our division of markets, our divisions of animal health, plant industry, ag and natural resources, food and nutrition, and the in but not of State Agricultural Development Committee, or SADC, all have integral roles in helping our farmers stay productive and financially viable, keep their livestock and plant crops healthy and safe from invasive pests and diseases, ensure that they can undertake conservation and environmental measures to stay compliant with emerging laws, as well as educating future farmers on all aspects of agriculture, maintain a solid working relationship with the state school community feeding programs into which they can sell products, and in the case of SADC, work within the established laws regarding farmland preservation, special occasion events, and right to farm. Through all of these divisions, the goal is to keep New Jersey agriculture strong into the future, and we accomplish that by all the items that we just mentioned, as well as connecting our farmers to the greatest extent possible to marketing opportunities like direct sales to consumers, selling local produce and other items into wholesale, retail, and food service chains, and connecting them with processors who want to buy their products. I just returned yesterday from the New York Produce Show and met with several retailers and other organizations, and is constantly trying to find emerging markets for our growers to keep agriculture in the Garden State.
Right, excellent. And so I'll ask Natasha to kind of answer a similar question with if she can just talk a little bit about the programs and services that the agency offers specifically for communities and individuals as it relates to food access and nutrition access.
Great, thank you, and good morning, everyone. So we are responsible for running the state's largest food assistance program, which is a supplemental nutrition assistance program that you heard a lot about this morning. So I guess I just want to talk about it from the context of how people get access and what it actually means for families. So it really is a supplement to their food budgets, right? So they are, there's eligibility requirements for people to be determined eligible for SNAP. And once they are, they receive benefits on an EBT card that they can use at food retailers, farmers markets, farms, healthy corner stores, any number of places that would accept an EBT card. We use our local social service agencies, our county welfare agencies, or boards of social services. They're called sort of multiple names depending on and they all have different names, but they're in every county for people to go in and be determined eligible. I always like to tell people that a SNAP household, how we determine that eligibility is who you live with and eat with, right? And so it's very different than sometimes how we determine eligibility for some of our other programs. Lisa mentioned this morning in her presentation something that I just want to reiterate because we're really excited about being the first and only state to have a minimum SNAP benefit in the country, which I think is really exciting. She mentioned this morning that the federal minimum is $23, so you could be determined eligible for SNAP and only get $23 a month. A lot of times people think they don't want to go through the process and only to get $23. And in New Jersey, we do fill that gap between $23 and $95, depending on how, what your benefit amount, to make sure that everybody gets at least $95. So super excited about that. I'm going to, every time I talk today, always throw out a website and information for you to be able to take back. So mynjhelps.gov is a place that you can send people to apply to see if they are eligible to receive SNAP benefits, so mynjhelps.gov. Or they can go locally to a Board of Social Services or the County Welfare Agency to apply. A couple of quick things I just want to mention on some supportive programs that we have sort of wrapped around SNAP to help people, one, know how to apply, but also how to make healthy food choices, which I think is very relevant for the audience here and some of the work that we're doing locally. So the first program is our SNAP Outreach Program. We have 13 vendors across the state that work in all 21 counties that really are supporting families and individuals and people on how to apply for SNAP. So a couple of things that they do as they are in community events or, senior centers, any place where they could find potential people who are not already receiving SNAP but could be eligible for SNAP, is talking through the process. How does SNAP work? What are the eligibility requirements? What documents do they need to apply? How do they keep their benefits? And I think some of the biggest things they do is answer questions and deal with some of the misconceptions of what people think as they're applying for benefits. The second program is our SNAP education program that we call SNAP Ed, that really provides, the Department of Health is our managing agency and they contract with vendors, but it's really about nutrition education and how to make healthy food choices on a budget, which we all know is challenging and food costs lots of money now, and just helping people, because like I mentioned, SNAP is really supplementing their food budget, so we really want to talk people through that process and give them some information. I don't know if we have, I think we had sent slides. So just wanted to give you an example of just our newest SNAP Ed campaign and just how simple this is, right? So we are really just trying to give people an idea of Mother Nature measures things for you and wanting to use the concept of fresh fruits and vegetables, whereas where we want to push people to know that you have to get your 3 cups of vegetables and 2 cups of fruit a day, but that you don't have to figure out how to measure it. And obviously, it's simple. It's in a measuring cup. Here's the tomato. I think there's a couple more if you want to advance. Right, so corn, and then talking to them about the recommendations. It's in multiple languages. So I think there's just 2 more. Yep. And the pepper, and then the banana and the apple. So just give a simple concept to people about how you can look at getting the nutritional value out of it and what that measurement is. So hopefully you'll see this in a billboard near you soon, and it will be a digital campaign as well.
All right, excellent. Yep. Nature's food is the first fast food, right? So that's definitely something we want to emphasize. Thank you so much, Natasha. And I know that everyone knows about their local SNAP Ed and SNAP Navigators, right? So make sure you connect with them. If you're not, sorry, I had to give another plug. But I know that there's also USDA and NJDA programs that support nutrition and food access. And so if maybe we start with Joe and then end with Lindsay, if that's okay. So just keep the state going.
Yeah, as briefly touched upon in our first part. Well, first I want to say that the Department of Ag has had the pleasure of working with the Department of Human Services. We've done some videos, just short recipe videos, sort of like those ones you see on Facebook with just the hands making the stuff, just to show how easy it is to use an ingredient that you might not be familiar with. And we're working now with the Department of Human Services on a summer EBT program through our Food and Nutrition Division. And that's something that is in development, will be launched in summer of 2024. As I said, our Division of Food and Nutrition is our main channel through which our food access efforts flow. The division oversees and administers the state's school feeding and community feeding programs. In a state where a little over 1 in 10 residents are identified as food insecure, these programs aimed to ensure that all residents have access to healthy, safe, and nutritious foods is of paramount importance, with very little room for error. This includes reimbursing school districts for the state's share of school feeding expenses, connecting farmers with nearby schools that they can buy fresh, high-quality agricultural products for their cafeterias, administering the fresh fruit and vegetable program, which exposes students to healthy produce they might not regularly get to enjoy, as well as providing nutrition and preparation information for the parents, and ensuring that the 6 emergency feeding organizations, or EFOs, are maximizing locally grown and produced foods for distribution to the hundreds of soup kitchens, food pantries, and other distribution channels to reach people struggling with food insecurity. We are also extremely excited about the Office of Food Security Advocate, who is housed in, but not of, the Department of Agriculture, as well as locating the Food Security Executive Director in our offices in Trenton. This will no doubt help us accomplish our long-standing goal of creating an all-inclusive, comprehensive food strategy for the state, and that includes production, processing, distribution, and sales. We hope this approach can avoid some of the pitfalls that come from having food issues spread across multiple agencies that may or may not be aware of what other pieces of that jigsaw puzzle are doing. You know, too many times, as Brian said, we're operating in silos, and we need to work cooperatively. And I think that's important that we reach across different departments to make sure that we are having the most impact that we possibly can across the community.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Joe. Lindsay, do you want to share some thoughts?
As Bob mentioned, the Farm Service Agency serves as a safety net to our farmers and ranchers. And I wanted to mention that FSA covers all facets of New Jersey agriculture. So from the traditional row crops to our fruits and vegetables, but also our oyster and clamming operations, our dairies, our vineyards, Christmas tree operations, honeybee operations. And in 2022 and 2023, we also had an on-farm food safety program where we were able to reimburse for expenses related to obtaining or renewing a food safety certification. We also are here to support our organic operations. We have a reimbursement program that will assist in covering some of the costs of fees when you transition to an organic operation, or if you have to complete the yearly certification. So those are just some ways that we are able to continue to support farmers and all areas of agriculture in New Jersey.
Do you want to add anything, Joe?
I'll add one little thing to that. Lindsay hit on organic, and I also want to hit on climate smart. This administration has been really pushing climate smart practices, and a lot of our farmers here in New Jersey already abide by a lot of those practices, which is great. But I actually just got back from DC last night, and I've been down there all week. And climate smart practices have been one big push that this administration has been making, and they want us to continue to push that as well. Climate smart practices are best practices that are not only good for the operations, for the producers, but also, like the title says, they're good for the climate. I would not be surprised if going into the future, we end up with a climate smart certification program very similar to organic. And we were laughing about it down in DC. Well, wouldn't climate smart fall into organic? And the analogy that I came up with is like being vegan versus vegetarian. Very similar, but they're not the same. So there's going to be a much greater push for those practices going into the future, and ultimately it's going to make our farming operations much more sustainable. You're going to be able to get more production out of them for a longer period of time, and ultimately they're great for the environment. So thank you.
Right, moving on, and no particular order here, so feel free to chime in and we'll just nod as you want to jump in. But second question is, please tell us about how you reach deep into communities to communicate to those who can benefit from the programs you manage, to let them know that these programs and services are available to them if eligible. And what does that look like? Are you working with local government or community, nonprofit partners to get the word out? And I'll just open it up to the panel if anybody wants to address that first.
That's always the issue. How do we get the information to the people that need the information about our programs? So each year we come up with an extensive strategic outreach plan to try and identify the important stakeholders for us to partner with, which led us here today, thankfully, to be able to speak to all of you. And then we evaluate those practices at the end of each year. And the goals change every year. This year we're trying to put more of our emphasis on farmers that have urban ag operations. That's another big area of this administration that they're looking for us to push. So we rely on also our county committee members who are farmers that are in each of our offices that serve to review applications. We rely on them to make us aware of local outreach events for our employees to be able to visit, and then partnering with NRCS and the state of New Jersey to just try and tag along. And even if we can jump on an agenda and just give 5 minutes just to plug our name, we might be reaching someone that didn't know about us previously.
We're just volunteering to jump in here. We're just all it. So I think we have a similar experience where we have great programs and are never sure how many people actually know that these things exist and that they may be eligible for them. So I mentioned before that we have our SNAP navigators that cover all 21 counties, so we certainly use them. They do a lot of work going into shelters, food pantries, senior centers, schools, healthcare facilities, just to make sure that we're in and getting the word out. The couple things that I will just add to this is that we also do a needs assessment across multiple programs every year to look at the needs of who's potentially eligible for SNAP that may not be getting it, and then how do we target our outreach and our education as we move forward into the coming year. So from those needs assessments in previous years, we've targeted college students, older adults, individuals with disabilities, families that are mixed status and have immigrant families, together. So those are some of the things that we are trying to do, but really using sort of boots on the ground, social service agencies that have staff locally that are trusted in communities to talk about government programs, because a lot of times they want to hear about people that they know in the community, other than maybe some of us sitting on this panel, even though we have the same information. So we really are focused on those needs assessment and targeting certain and specific areas and communities across the state.
So I kind of want to echo that we're always looking to reach out to like a wider audience and make sure that especially smaller scale producers and individuals know that our programs can work for them as well. We have a very boots on the ground kind of mentality too. We have 6 field offices that cover every county in the state. So we rely on the planners and the district conservationists within those to kind of identify the audiences that need to be reached. We go to Mercer County, or every Board of Ag meeting. I personally go to the Mercer County ones, but yeah, we kind of have this historic involvement that we kind of rely on to like communicate with the community. We also work with local working groups where we're discussing directly with the folks that are, living within these communities to gauge what the needs are of the communities. We have a really collaborative outreach with our partner agencies as well. We have a lot of partners that we work with, from water supply to the urban ag area, and we have the New Jersey Autobahn, all sorts of different partners that we have. And in order to kind of track that, we actually just, within the past month, hired an outreach coordinator. So the goal of that position is to really focus in on outreach and kind of track demographics for the state and see how our efforts are succeeding or what we can work on.
Very happy to address this question. We had a former chancellor who, at a New Jersey Farm Bureau convention, said publicly that he felt that the American Land Grant University was this nation's greatest innovation. I'm admittedly biased, but I agree. And what the chancellor said at the time was that he felt that the strength of the land grant system was because of cooperative extension. We're present in 3,000 counties, folks, across this country. And the strength of the partnership that is the land grant system lies in the fact that we are funded and integrated into the federal government all the way down to the county government through the land grant system. So I know all of our state USDA directors, and we work together. And we all acknowledge the challenges of coordinating very complicated bureaucracies, but we're driven by the needs of the communities. So another structural aspect of extension, in addition to our mission to serve communities, is that we're accountable at lower levels of government to county commissioners who vote annually to support or not our budgets. We are baked into the fabric of county government. In some cases, what we call a county extension department head. It's kind of a liaison position between the county extension offices, between the county governments and Rutgers. These folks often hold the position as a county director, or at least one step removed in reporting into a county director. So we are held accountable through these relationships. And there's a few other things I would say that Kara Cute, who you met earlier, Sara, myself, in easier times when I'm on the faculty, we are evaluated based on our ability to complete the extension cycle. We do not go into a community and say, sir, I just met you, I'm going to tell you what your issues are and how to solve them. We listen to you and respond. So our ability to actually identify needs of communities is part of our expectations as faculty members and staff members of Cooperative Extension. And that's not the end of it. It's actually not the number of publications, not the number of people we speak to, but the actual adoption of improved practices that make our communities or individuals' lives better, economically, socially, environmentally, health-wise. So this is really central to who we are. And the third thing that I think is very powerful is that in many cases, cooperative extension and or others within the land grant system leadership are actually statutorily defined as ex officio members of a number of important organizations, whether they be aspects of state government, like Joe mentioned. Even in some cases, Bob will reach out periodically, or some of our other federal partners, for example, for local knowledge of disasters and whether or not assistance programs should be triggered. Because there's boots on the ground that our federal colleagues can actually rely on to give objective advice and firsthand accounting based on the relationship we have with the farmers and community members. So I think, like I said, it's both, this is who we are as a mission-driven organization, but structurally, I think it's a really brilliant and robust and durable system. It's lasted over 100 years. And the fact is, you do not sustain partnerships if you're irrelevant. So extension has to adapt with the needs and changing circumstances. And I'll just conclude with this. I, 2 years ago, couldn't say this to you. I would have to say we are present in all 21 counties of New Jersey, and we have 20 county offices. So inefficient. So now I can tell you we have 21 county offices, including the County of Hudson, where we historically had FNET programming, but we didn't have that handshake agreement with the county. Through the leadership of Sara and some of her predecessors and some of our other colleagues in 4-H, we actually have that kind of relationship. So it just shows that as Extension demonstrates its responsiveness to the changing needs, the partners, come to the table as well.
Thanks, Brian. When Secretary Fisher retired on July 1, I assumed the responsibilities of Secretary, and looking at the thing, one of the big challenges is getting people to know what we do. I mean, a lot of people see us and they think just of the Jersey Fresh program, which is our big forward-facing, consumer-oriented campaign that I've overseen for the past several years. And, we're very proud of how we reach out with their various audiences through that. But as Brian just said, maintaining relationships, growing relationships, establishing new relationships. We maintain close relationships with many of these agricultural agencies and groups to help get our messages deep into the communities that we serve. Those include the Rutgers Cooperative Extension and their county agents, county boards of agriculture, the Underserved Farmers Network, New Jersey Farm Bureau, and other commodity groups who help spread our messages to as many people, farmers and the general public, as possible. There's also a sizable amount of information that goes out about nutrition programs through our schools and through the feeding organizations throughout the state. The department also has highly active social media channels, including Facebook and Instagram. We also maintain active relationships with New Jersey offices of all USDA and their divisions, which gives us a pipeline into the national resources through USDA. And we are a highly active participant in National Association of State Departments of Agriculture. We'd always just say NASDA, so saying it out, the long version is tricky there. And it's a Northeast regional group, the Northeastern Association of State Departments of Agriculture, or NEASDA. This is what provides us with an array of channels through which we can work or learn what other states are doing in agriculture, and they can learn from us as well. Jersey Fresh was the first statewide branding campaign back in 1984, celebrating 40 years next year, and so we're very proud of that. And again, it's just developing the relationships and maintaining and constantly working at that, and working within the administration, with the administration and with the legislature to make sure that our constituents' voices are heard. Thanks.
So as you all know, one of the main goals of this event, as well as the mission of the Food Democracy Collaborative, is to advocate for optimization of federal food access and farming programs so that they can support the interconnected goals of both food security and farm viability. And so in the next question, I'd like to ask about how Natasha, your agency really manages and connects with the USDA and how it applies. And so if you don't mind telling us a little bit about the structure of SNAP outreach in New Jersey with respect to its connecting to residents and the representatives at the local food systems level, and how NJ SNAP helps make the connection for clients on the front lines with local and county level agencies.
Sure. I think really it's just making sure that, and I mentioned this before, making sure that we have people that are local in communities that are trusted by people so that we are explaining what benefits are out there. And I will go broader than SNAP. Obviously, that's the program that we operate, but it's about WIC, it's about the National School Lunch Program, it's the senior farmers, it's all of the USDA programs that we all implement throughout the state and making sure that they're there. So as we have SNAP navigators out in communities, making sure that they are aware of all of these other resources as well, making sure that they're talking to people about how to access them. So I will tell you, the biggest thing for us is about access. How do we get information to people? How do we educate them about what exists, and then helping them get to the place of learning if they're eligible for those benefits or not?
And this is for Bob and James. Can you talk a bit about how your office is focusing on outreach and supporting the unique needs of first-generation, emerging, and other historically underserved farmers to improve their engagement in USDA services and programs? The follow-on to that is, are there unique challenges that you think farmers experience with New Jersey accessing or applying to the programs that your agencies offer that you can share as well? And Lindsay as well. You're not on the agenda, but please feel free to chime in as well.
Yeah, so kind of on a national level, it's a main priority of NRCS right now to reach out to new customers and kind of tap into these communities that haven't yet been, the focus of our programs or haven't had as, strong access to our programs. We have a lot of partnership agreements that we work with. One in particular is the Northern New Jersey Small Farm Food Link. It's just kind of like an example of one of these like specialized programs that we're trying to get into urban areas. This one's through the Urban Ag Cooperative, and it's increasing opportunities for regenerative agricultural practices for historically underserved urban farms, small scale farms. And we also are trying to increase just like food access to these underserved areas. We have a community garden grant that is a new program that's, we started last year. It's a grant program to try and, put some funds towards these urban areas that might not have food access now. And then kind of on a wider stage, NRCS as a whole has a historically underserved category that allows anyone who falls into one of these groups to have access to higher cost share rates. We have fund pools that are specific to these groups, and we've also increased some of our, we have all of these focuses on these smaller scale programs. We have like an organic transition initiative to assist organic producers in transitioning to organic and providing cost share for organic management as a whole. To just try and continue to reach these communities that historically might not have had access to our programs. But just an overall goal to ensure inclusion and accessibility within our programs is top of the order right now. And then to get onto the part of challenges, I think in kind of a similar note, and it's been talked about a lot today, is just like land access and longevity of like, especially in these urban areas, but just New Jersey, I think, as a whole is kind of at threat of, development in general, but especially within these, smaller scale or historically underserved farmers that might not even have a year lease for the property that they're managing. For our cost share programs, we do require land control, so that can be difficult for a lot of those producers to, prove that they have access to and control of the land that they're working. But we are always trying to increase our efforts to work with producers. If an individual isn't sure how to get that, then we try and work with them. We're also trying to work with cities to try and educate them on why these producers might need this written agreement so that they can have access to our programs.
FSA operates very similarly to NRCS, the way that we perform our outreach. I will say one thing about the Biden-Harris administration opposed to any other administration. The number one focus has been equity, and they have been not only putting that into FSA and NRCS, USDA as a whole, but across all departments. They are shooting to make everything more equitable. Now, we've all seen the cartoon where you have equality and then you have equity and then the comparison there. This administration has created programs specifically catering to make programs more equitable and more accessible. So when we look at the underserved communities, when you look at our more urban areas, how are we expanding? Well, FSA is expanding with Urban Ag. That's a huge initiative that we are currently in the pilot program stages of. Unfortunately, we don't have any pilot sites in New Jersey, but There's definitely plans for expansion in the works right now, and we have a few areas that are definitely being considered. So I'm actually very eager to see that list, and I'm really hoping that New Jersey ends up on that list because I think that's an area that we can tap into that we can really benefit from to be able to provide fresh produce and even just the education to our more urban areas would be greatly beneficial for the industry, but also for our food security in total. Do you want to jump in a little bit?
Sure. I also wanted to mention that FSA targets a portion of its lending of all loan funds to beginning farmers and ranchers each year. So in terms of our direct operating program and our direct ownership program, more than 50% of funds are reserved until September 1st to ensure that beginning farmers and ranchers have access. And that's part of that whole equity thing that Bob mentioned. The concern is that traditional farmers, people that are already participating in our programs, know about these opportunities and could utilize all the loan funding before some of these beginning farming and ranchers or the traditionally underserved is aware of the programs that we have. In fiscal year 2022, our direct and guaranteed loan total assistance to beginning farmers and ranchers was actually the third highest in agency history at over $3 billion. So that's one of the ways that we also target these sorts of groups. As was mentioned by NRCS, we also have higher payment rates for individuals that meet the traditionally underserved categories. Some of our programs also provide waiving of service fees to participate in the programs for those individuals. Challenges?
Plenty of challenges.
All the challenges, yeah.
I don't know. Do you guys have all day? Like any agency, there are definitely plenty of challenges. Outreach has been a very big challenge of ours, but we are, like Lindsay stated earlier, we have our annual plan that we have in motion, and that gets adjusted at the end of every year to see where we can to be able to reach out to communities a little bit better and to be able to provide more assistance to certain areas. I just completely lost my train of thought. Other areas that we also see challenges is when it comes to our programs. So when you look at FSA programs and you look at agriculture across the entire country, no two operations are the same. And when you look at the vast differences in size, you look at New Jersey where you have more specialty crops where you can have producers growing upwards of 60 to 70 different varieties of crops on only a couple of acres versus out west where you have operations that are only growing corn or only growing soy on thousands and thousands of acres. When it comes to reporting, the challenge there is the producer that has thousands of acres of corn, well, guess what? That only takes about 5 minutes to write down on a paper versus the producers in New Jersey who, have a very vast and diversified crop portfolio. You're talking about fractions of an acre and it doesn't compute to the systems that we currently have in place. Thankfully, we have a phenomenal team in New Jersey. The majority of our team members either come from an ag background or they are farmers themselves. So they understand the struggles, and working with our farmers, they're able to work through the challenges with them, and ultimately we're still able to provide top-notch quality service even with the challenges that we have. But it doesn't mean that I don't want to have it be easier for us. There's definitely a lot of work that we need to do. And thankfully, through, leadership on the national level, we're definitely going in that direction of seeing improvements.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. And Brian, for you, so how do county agents provide support to farmers with promoting, navigating, or applying for various funding, such as grants that are available for producers at the regional food system level. And then if you could talk a little bit about your office's focus on outreach and supporting unique needs of first generation, emerging, and other historically underserved farmers, and to improve the engagement with USDA serving programs.
So there's a lot there,
Yeah.
and I'm going to maybe build on one of the challenges before I kind of start answering that, which is we keep hearing about access to programs. I think one of the big challenges that we're seeing across the system is actually awareness. And I think when I think about awareness, I see direct correlation between first-generation folks coming into the industry and multi-generation. As we're seeing just absolutely remarkable generational turnover in agriculture, that's land, it's assets, it's also knowledge and relationships. So frankly, you know, the onus is on us to have a proactive obligation to go out and do outreach and try to build that type of trust in communities and awareness of who we are. But it's a challenge. It's a challenge across the system. So consequently, what I find is a lot of folks do not know about the magnitude of the resources out there to support agriculture or food systems at federal, state, even, Kate, I'm looking at you. Our counties are really very vital partners that are often not fully understood their role in promoting agricultural retention and development. So I think awareness actually precedes access is one of our big challenges, and it's going to get harder. So I'll talk about your second question in a moment. Do we support growers, farmers, in accessing resources? The answer is yes, in a couple different ways. So I think part of the spirit of the question is, do we provide direct support for growers or people in the food system to go apply for and access federal or state resources? The answer is to some extent. There are federal programs that are regionally managed. I think here about Northeast SARE. Joe, I think you're on the executive administrative council of that. We have a lot of risk management, IPM. We have aquaculture regional centers in the region. They do have programs that often provide direct dollars to the ultimate end user, i.e. a grower, an aquaculturalist. So in some cases, we do facilitate with a private entity like a grower, or facilitate access to that through providing, you know, technical support. But I would say the biggest part of what we do to help financially is, again, as faculty and staff of a land-grant university, it's our obligation to pursue funding opportunities to support our programs. So when you look at the fact that, and I'll share numbers with you. So the New Jersey Ag Experiment Station is pretty big and complex. The vast majority of our budget comes from competitively sourced grants and contracts. It exceeds our state appropriation, it exceeds our federal monies, and it also exceeds the county dollars that we receive to support extension. So I can think of a lot of the really good and important work that is done in areas of traditional pathology or entomology or weed science. We have our scientists going out working often collaboratively with industry to pursue these funds. So does it go in the pocket of growers directly? No. Do the benefits accrue to growers? Absolutely, or we would not be doing the work. I jotted down a few things that I was thinking about. One of the things that one of my colleagues often says, and I fully embrace this, at the experiment station, we manage about 1,200 acres of research farms. We have a number of field stations that support the marine, coastal, aquaculture, and fisheries communities. And we actually have 3 business incubators. One serves ag and food, one serves environmental services, and another aquaculture innovation. So one of the key principles that we feel is the strength of this industry has always been adaptability, adaptability, adaptability. If you go back to the 1950s and look at the tremendous growth and productivity of U.S. agriculture, it's not based on more people, it's not based on more land, it's not based on more material, you know, physical inputs. It's really been driven by research and technology. So one of the things that we feel passionately about is it's our obligation to make the mistakes so that we can actually advance to the industry things that are validated, proven useful and productive. So these are the types of things that we put a lot of our effort in, and a lot of that is based on federal resourcing. Right now, there's a lot of work among the partners to advance conceptually this concept of farm viability. It doesn't matter your scale of production, you have some level of economic motive. Is it a primary source of income? Is it a secondary source of income? Whatever your motivation is, farm viability is your ability to meet those economic objectives sustainably. So one of the things that we realize, and Bob, I'm very sympathetic, we have a lot of major partners here that are very large national or state organizations that are very complicated. Sometimes our processes are challenging. Joe, you and I have talked about this extensively even within the state. Sometimes there's just little tweaks to programs that can actually make them open up resources and work more efficiently. So one of the things that we feel very committed to is working with people like Bob, who's a very receptive ear to these conversations. How can we move federal resources? Morgan, I'm looking at you when I say this. Urban agriculture, remarkable opportunity. The will is there. I believe there's resources there, but we need to work together to help permeate the consciousness of people that are coming into this industry to realize there's people that care about their success and can actually facilitate access to these resources. So I think the county agent, we have about 50 faculty out in the counties that we call county agents. One of the things that we do is train and work with volunteers that are very passionate, very well integrated into their communities. For every one faculty member, depending on the program, we have 40 to 80 volunteers. 40 to 80 volunteers. This is a remarkable force multiplier. So it's these types of events where partners, many of whom I admit I do not know, and I look forward to knowing you, come together and hear about things, and having our volunteers go out in these communities and bring new partners to Extension is a vital part of how we get resources out.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much. And if I could get a hand of applause for all of our panelists for their great answers. And we have more questions, but we're coming close to time, so we want to make sure we ask the audience to ask questions first. So if anyone has any questions, that includes people in the chat. So Corey, I see your hand up. So maybe we could get a mic to Corey. Is there no mic? I can.
Yeah, we can.
Oh, she's. Sorry, just because it's online.
Okay. Hi. So as a registered dietitian that works in an underserved community, I'm a proud New Jerseyan to live in a state that has the first office of the food security advocate. So kudos to that. And then also to live in a state that has the, a SNAP benefit that far exceeds the federal government's level. So I guess I have two questions, and I will address them to Joe and Natasha. In terms of accessibility to of your programs, do you foresee any ease in the application process in terms of being more universal for all the federal feeding programs and also SNAP? Many of them have the same eligibility requirements. So do you foresee any streamlining in the application process?
Well, thanks for your question. First, I will say that we just streamlined our online application for SNAP. And one of the things that we do as a state is that our application for SNAP is also our application for cash assistance for TANF and general assistance as well. So we've already sort of internally streamlined. We also have a streamlined screening tool, so people come into our system, they can screen to see if they're eligible for Medicaid, for TANF, for SNAP. So we've done some of those things. The thing I always say to people when I get asked this question a lot is that at the federal level, some of the requirements and some of what we have to get for each program is different. So we, I think, attempt to streamline as much as we possibly can, and then there are some things that are a little bit more of a challenge to do. We in New Jersey over the last year just started doing a match with our colleagues at the Department of Health for WIC and SNAP. So now we run a file every month. So if you are on SNAP and not on WIC, we notify you that you could be eligible and vice versa. So there are things that we are doing to try to streamline it, but there are some challenges just to be very transparent on the realities of aligning those requirements for those benefits and making it easy for people. We don't want to frustrate people, but we also don't want them to have the false impression that they're going to be able to get something if we can't figure out how to do that.
And I would echo that. I mean, we're constantly looking to adapt and change and update. And one of the things that we've been going, and I've been teasing for a couple years, but it's been a slow-going process, is a mini-grant program we have for underserved farmers. And just the application process is undergoing a lot of analysis as to what we need to include, as to what we can maybe cut off. And so we are looking to streamline that process so that we can have easier access to those funds. The majority of our funds go to organizations and different opportunities, not to individuals. Even our school breakfast and lunch program goes through into school feeding authorities, and so we don't deal directly with individuals for benefits. But you know, when we do, we are constantly looking to you know, streamline the process.
And the Secretary just said something I just want to add, is that we also do a file, I don't always see if it's daily, but we do a file regularly with the Department of Agriculture to send over our kids that are on SNAP so that they are automatically determined eligible for the National School Lunch Program. So there are some things that are happening behind the scenes that isn't necessarily visible to people that we are doing every day.
Great. Then my second part, sorry, is directly for Natasha. You know, I work at a local organization, and it's been great. We've had access to the SNAP navigators, which has been, you know, wonderful for our clients. However, after the application is put in, there tends to be a backup on the county level. What can be done to help alleviate some of that wait time for our community?
So, two things I'll say to you. There are application timelines that I think we want to make sure that everybody understands. The counties have 30 days to process an application, and there are some applicants that may fall into a 7-day window to get that done. I will tell you that over the last 3 years during the pandemic, our applications have increased probably by 30 to 40%. So some of what people are feeling is just the extreme need and the fact that our county agencies are still staffed the same way that they were prior to the pandemic and trying to manage through that. So know that we are doing everything we can to make sure that those applications are done quickly, but some of it is just pure volume and being able to get them through the system.
Thank you so much, Corey. I see a question out in the back, and I want to remind you all that this is the People's Summit, so, you know, don't let these guys off easy. Ask them questions.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Strehse Breeden-Balam, and I am a researcher in the area of food insecurities as it pertains to community college students. I really enjoyed this presentation, but one of the things that has stood out to me is everyone on here is saying how to get the word out. And it bothers me because there are so many other grassroots organizations that none of your organizations reach out to, such as the sororities and fraternities that are here in the state of New Jersey. I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and we have over 1,000 women here in the state of New Jersey throughout the entire state that would love to partner with any of you to get the word out within our communities. The National Coalition of Negro Women, the National Association of University Women, just to name a few that really are grassroots looking to help families that are suffering from food insecurities, but yet and though the information that you have is not really getting to the grassroots organizations that could help push your agenda as well as help my community. Thank you.
Can I just quick response to that? I think that's a fair statement, and as we may not know about all these grassroots organizations, so please come to us as well. Happy to always extend that.
All right.
If I may, awareness goes both ways. I say a lot of people aren't aware of us. One of the things that we're constantly recognizing is we're not aware of a lot of people out there, or agencies out there, or organizations. So it's a two-way street where the awareness is lagging.
Yeah, we'll let you close that out.
And I would echo that as well. I mean, we have, if you're on Facebook, New Jersey Department of Agriculture, Jersey Fresh, our website, nj.gov/agriculture. We constantly have press releases, updates, opportunities are available there. And for the past year and a half plus, we've been developing our Underserved Farmers Network, which Janine and the Food Democracy Collaborative are a part of that network. Just because we're from the government doesn't mean that we're not here to help. I mean, we are here to help. And that's part of the challenge that we've been facing in developing our network and our outreach, is that there is a distrust. And so we've been developing those relationships and creating trust and creating this confidential list that we will not share with anybody. And even people, the Office of the Food Security Advocate asked us if they could have our list, and we said, no, we promised that this list would be confidential. Now, we're happy to share on that network information and opportunities that they may have. And we are trying, and so I appreciate the input and I appreciate the comment. Thank you.
All right, excellent. I see Dr. Saki, did you still have a question? Okay, Dr. Saki.
Thanks. So my name is Saki from RBHS, and I think one, in terms of getting the message out, there's a huge disconnect between nutrition and agriculture. I'm a nutritional epidemiologist, and I confess to say I had no idea what the extension office does, right? Like we talk about the nutrients and the food groups and SNAP and the rest, but who is making the food? Most of us who are nutritionists are not well aware. So we need to do more crossover. Like in my courses, I'm beginning to invite people from the New Jersey Collaborative Farmers, right? So we need that. And also we need more advocacy, right? Because COVID showed us that things can be smoother, easier, right? But the COVID, when the rules have been pulled back, now the SNAP, the WIC, like I work in the college food pantry, the students, like the students come and what are the rules? These are the rules, but it's changing. If you apply before this time, you qualify. So it's like all those things combined with the stigma associated with even reaching out. It's like, do I even bother, right? So it's like things, and for those of you from the federal government, there isn't much you can do about it. The rules are the rules, right? But during COVID, the relaxation showed that things could work, right? The IRS knows who needs money. Like the New Jersey Office of Taxation sent an email. Oh, you rent in a place where you might qualify for an anchor program. Oh, let me apply, right? Otherwise, I see it on the website. I don't even look at it. So there are things that can be done. You have your restrictions, but that's where through summits like this, if you can let us know what we need, and we as partners and as champions, we can advocate on your behalf so that hopefully the Senate and Congress can get something done to make life easier for everybody. That would be great.
Yes, I wanted to snap all of that. Yes, the pandemic made things a lot easier, right? And those relaxations showed us how efficient the government can be. And so it'd be great to bring some of those back. But I don't know if anyone wants to respond to that.
I will just say the Office of Food Security Advocate now is that was the intention, is so that they would oversee. Mark, who you'll hear from later this afternoon, I believe, after lunch, is providing a giant umbrella that will connect all these organizations, all these departments, and try to have a unified voice rather than everybody operating on their individual platforms. And I think that that's critical and essential, and that's why it's so great that it's now in place. And we hope that the Office of Food Security Advocate will be here for quite a long time. Sure.
Just something else that we didn't mention, but you talked about overlapping and making sure people are aware of different programs. We operate out of a United States Department of Agriculture Service Center. So that includes Farm Service Agency, the Natural Resources Conservation Service, and also Rural Development. So I just wanted to mention that we're trying to, USDA recognizes the one-stop shop sort of mentality to try and get people all the resources available to them. And also farmers.gov, just wanted to mention, we mentioned websites. Farmers.gov, you can find a lot more information about Farm Service Agency and NRCS as well.
Well, I just like to say a couple words just to wrap. I started as executive director with the New Jersey Agricultural Society back in March, and my background is marketing and media. And just a few things from a bit of an outsider's perspective. I've actually been working on a dairy project for 4 years, so I've had boots on the ground for a while and really understand the complexities of the challenges of agriculture. from a farmer's point of view. And there are many in the dairy industry, that's for sure, and especially in the state of New Jersey. But I want to thank Janine for organizing this community and mimic Joe's comment about building networks and unified voice and developing overarching strategic goals and plans to help solve the problems. But one thing I want to say this is from my perspective, but it starts with the farmer. We did a Thanksgiving harvest for our Farmers Against Hunger, and we literally have hundreds of thousands of pounds of apples on the trees that are sitting there that need to be picked and gotten to the right places. So when we think about food safety, the final mile, I think the supply chain and the food systems, I think it's all in front of us to help transform how we think about getting the food to the folks in need, and getting the system in the trucks and the people to help serve those who desperately need it. So I think networks is critical and having a unified voice. I think also over-communicating all of the goodness, the diversity of crop, and all the things that New Jersey has that the non-farm public really needs to understand. So I want to thank these brilliant panelists. We have a really incredible group today. They're the leaders in the top of the food chain, so to speak, to help architect and push us forward, if you will. So I want to thank you all for your wonderful thoughts, and thank you all for coming.